What if the fastest Mustang at the stoplight is not the one you respect? Not the one with the throaty V8 idle. Not the one with the GT badge. Not the 5-liter Coyote that announces itself 3 blocks away. No. The one pulling away from you is a 4-cylinder. A turbocharged 2.3-liter 4-cylinder. Wearing a Mustang badge. And it is bone stock. Now, before you click away, this is not a story about a Civic, a Supra, or some JDM legend with a cult following and a poster on your wall. This is a Mustang, an American muscle car running a Turbo 4, and it is faster than it has any right to be. Not because of heritage, not because of sound, but because of one thing muscle car culture almost never wants to talk about: power-to-weight efficiency. Weaponized by modern turbocharging. Crazy, right? To understand why this engine exists and why so many people hate that it does, you have to go back to around 2015. Ford was staring down a wall of tightening global emissions regulations. The Mustang, for the first time in its life, was going global. Right-hand drive, European markets, export numbers that actually mattered. And the math was simple. You cannot sell a V8 muscle car in every market on Earth when half the world taxes displacement like a sin. So Ford did something radical. They took the 2.3-liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder, a turbocharged engine already proving itself in the Focus RS and the Explorer, and dropped it into the most iconic American performance car ever made. The Mustang faithful lost their minds. A 4-cylinder Mustang had not existed since the Fox body era, and that one was not exactly beloved. This felt like betrayal. But here is what nobody wanted to admit. The engineering was serious. The 2.3-liter EcoBoost wasn't some economy motor dressed up for prom. This engine is a 2,264 cubic centimeter inline-4 with a bore and stroke of 87.5 mm by 94 mm, running a 9.5:1 compression ratio, direct fuel injection, a twin-scroll turbocharger spooling off an integrated exhaust manifold, forged steel crankshaft, stock output, 310 horsepower at 5,500 revolutions per minute, and 350 pound-feet of torque at just 3,000 revolutions per minute. That's peak torque arriving before most naturally aspirated V8 engines have even woken up. Here's where it gets interesting. The block is cast iron, not aluminum, iron. Ford did not go lightweight on the bottom end because this engine was designed from the factory floor to live under boost. The internals are overbuilt relative to the power they make in stock form, which is exactly the kind of engineering headroom that tuners dream about. The twin-scroll turbo setup separates exhaust pulses from cylinders 1 and 4, and from cylinders 2 and 3, reducing interference and improving spool. Translation: minimal lag for a 4-cylinder, and a remarkably flat torque curve that makes the car feel relentless in the mid-range. But here's the kicker. Strip the 5.0-liter Coyote V8 out of the GT and you lose roughly 200 pounds off the front axle. The EcoBoost Mustang tips the scales around 3,530 pounds versus the GT's 3,705 pounds and up. That's not just a number. It's a fundamentally different car. The nose is lighter. Turn-in is sharper. The balance shifts rearward. On a twisty back road or an autocross course, the EcoBoost doesn't just keep up. It changes direction like a car from a different weight class, because it is. And get this, the tuning potential is where the story goes from interesting to absurd. A simple tune, no hardware changes, just recalibrating the engine control unit, takes the 2.3 from 310 horsepower to roughly 360 to 380. Bolt on a downpipe, an intercooler, and an intake, and you are looking at 400 horsepower on a conservative tune. That is Coyote GT territory, from a 4-cylinder on pump gas for a fraction of the cost. Now, here's the crazy part. Push it further with an upgraded turbo, fuel system and supporting mods, and the 2.3 EcoBoost has proven it can reliably make 500 plus horsepower on the stock block. There are documented builds that make more than 600. The same iron block that Ford designed to be emissions compliant and fuel efficient is holding together at nearly double its factory output. You have probably driven past one of these cars at a meet and never looked twice. That is kind of the point. Nobody talks about this, but the front-end weight advantage compounds with every modification. As you add power, the lighter nose keeps the car's handling balance intact in a way a V8 Mustang simply cannot replicate without serious suspension work. You are not fighting the car, it is working with you. Track guys figured this out almost immediately. Autocross guys figured it out even faster. The EcoBoost Mustang started showing up at events and embarrassing cars that cost twice as much. Not because it was the most powerful thing there, but because it was the most efficient. The tuning community caught on hard. Companies like Mount Tune, Cobb and Full Race built entire product lines around the 2.3 EcoBoost. The aftermarket exploded. Forums filled up with data logs, dyno sheets and drag slips from owners who stopped caring what the badge said and started caring what the stopwatch said. And then there's the driving experience. No, it does not sound like a V8. It never will. What it sounds like is a turbocharged four-cylinder doing violence. It is a whistling spool, a sharp intake bark, and a wastegate flutter that becomes genuinely addictive once you stop comparing it to something it was never trying to be. The power delivery is eager and immediate. There is no waiting for high revolutions per minute. You roll into the throttle at 2,500 revolutions per minute and the torque shoves you forward like a diesel with a grudge. It is not dramatic, it is effective. For a lot of drivers, effective is more fun than theatrical. This is why purists hate it. The EcoBoost Mustang didn't fail because it was slow. It was rejected because it broke the rules. In muscle car culture, identity comes from displacement, from cylinder count, from sound. The EcoBoost offered none of that. It offered something worse, proof that you don't need any of it to be fast. And that's an uncomfortable truth when your entire identity is built on 8 cylinders and a rumble. It arrived at the worst possible cultural moment. Enthusiasts were defending the V8 against a future of electrification and turbo downsizing. The EcoBoost wasn't the enemy, but it looked like one. It wasn't judged on lap times or quarter-mile slips. It was judged on what it represented. And that changes everything, because the 2.3-liter EcoBoost was not a betrayal of the Mustang. It was a blueprint. A proof of concept that performance does not require nostalgia, that engineering discipline can replace cubic inches, that a lighter, smarter, more efficient car can humiliate tradition on the very roads tradition built. The tuners know it. The track rats know it. The owners who bought one as a daily and ended up at the drag strip every weekend, they definitely know it. The 2.3-liter EcoBoost did not fail the Mustang legacy. It exposed it. It proved that greatness does not always come with 8 cylinders and a soundtrack. Sometimes it comes with 4, a turbo, and something to prove. Greatness does not always roar. Sometimes it spools.